Hello and welcome to the next video in this series focusing on the interventions used by PWPs in their clinical practice. Today's video is slightly different. Rather than focus on a core intervention, this shorter session will explore how we can take our patients' values into account when supporting them with behavioural activation. My name is Josh Cable, and over the last 7 years I've worked in a variety of roles within IAPT, including as a PWP, supervisor PWP, Step 2 lead, and more recently as a lecturer on PWP training programs at a number of high-profile UK universities. I created these videos as tools to support PWP's understanding of the core Step 2 interventions. This is not intended to replace your university training, but supplement your understanding in an easy-to-digest format. Today we're taking a more advanced look at behavioural activation. You can refer to my previous video on BA for an overview of the whole intervention, but today we're just going to focus on the importance of adapting behavioural activation based on what the patient values in life. We already know the value of activity and how doing more can overcome symptoms of depression, but how do we choose these activities? One way is to consider what the patient values about activities in their life, which leads people to refer to this as values-based behavioural activation, but really this is just the BA intervention used to its full. This treatment can be used to support anyone who's depressed, though can be particularly useful for patients with more severe symptoms, though they should still be treatable at Step 2, and also patients who have experienced some form of loss. When I say loss here, I'm not talking about a bereavement, but a loss of activity. In other words, when a patient, for whatever reason, cannot do an activity that they previously valued in their life. This can be a useful technique when supporting patients with long-term health conditions, disabilities, injuries, or anyone whose physical health may be changing over time and limiting their ability to engage in previously valued activities. For example, imagine you've been a runner your whole life. From primary school, you've always done well at running, and this has been reinforced by your parents and friends. Since school, you've completed and done well in a number of competitions and were scouted for Team GB. But then you get injured and are told you won't be able to run ever again. This loss of activity can easily lead people to feel depressed. If we were to follow the standard BA intervention, it's unlikely that we would chance upon an activity that makes up for the loss of being unable to run. However, by exploring what the patient used to value about running, we can better search for activities which could fill this void. Whilst many patients experience these losses of activity due to physical injury or disability, there are many other more common factors in life which could lead to a similar loss. When we retire, we lose work, an activity which provides structure and stability throughout the vast majority of our adult life. When we have a baby, we become parents, but at the expense of having less time for hobbies and socialising. While it's completely normal for our activity to change over our lifetime, in order to maintain our mental health, it's important to feel like we're achieving the things that are important to us. So let's think about how values-based behavioural activation can help here. The first thing we need to do with our depressed patients is identify what activities they're no longer doing. This could be due to an adjustment like we've been discussing so far, or could simply be because of their depression. Once this loss of activity has been established, we need to consider what it is that the patient valued about these activities. For example, with the patient who can no longer run, what did they used to get out of running? Why did they do it? Why was running so important or beneficial for them? Some common examples of things we value could be our family and intimate relationships, our health or physical well-being, socializing, career and employment, fun and enjoyment, education or personal growth, money or financial gain, spirituality, and there are many more examples of things that we could value in our lives. Everything we do has a reason behind it. There's always a value we're trying to fulfill. For activities we enjoy doing, it's often easy to think about why we do them. However, even activities which you don't enjoy are in response to something you value. For example, I hate cleaning and doing housework, but I do it because it makes my partner happy. I value her happiness and our relationship, and this is why I do it. You may speak to patients who hated their job, but now they're retired, they might be depressed as they have unfilled values around finances or personal development. Think of an activity you enjoy, and also an activity you don't like doing, but still do anyway. Pause the video here and reflect on why you do these activities. What values do you get out of doing them? So let's get back to our example. Why do you think our patient valued running? This completely depends on the individual, but we can imagine that it might be for the health benefit, the fun they get out of running, or potentially the social aspect if they're part of a running club. Don't rush this discussion. You might spend most of a session simply digging into why the patient values various activities. Once we've established what it is that the patient values, we can consider how we can otherwise fulfill these values. You will support the patient in this step to come up with alternative activities that can meet the values of the activity they are unable to do anymore. Let's go back to our running example and let's imagine that our patient ran for the physical health benefits and the social aspect. If we consider the first value around physical health, how else could they achieve this? You would support the patient to come up with other activities that would improve their physical health. So for example, if the reason the patient cannot run anymore is due to the high impact nature of running, they may decide that swimming is a good alternative. It's low impact but would still improve their physical health, so would meet that value. Similarly, if the patient valued the social aspect of running with a running club, you could support them to look for how else they could achieve this social interaction. Maybe they could still attend the running club to see their friends, but take a more organisational role. Maybe they could be involved in arranging the routes of the runs or timing the runners, for instance. The result of this process is that when the patient plans these activities into their behavioural activation diary, they'll be meaningful and valuable to them, meaning they're more likely to engage in them. Remember, the whole point of BA is that doing more is what will improve our mood. Anything we can do to support the patient to be more engaged in this process will make treatment easier and more beneficial for them. This benefit highlights how exploring values can apply to all patients working through BA. Everyone is more likely to engage with the intervention if they value the activities that are planned into their BA diary. So even if the patient hasn't experienced a clear loss, you can still ensure that what the patient values in life is met in the activities they plan into their BA diary. Remember that throughout these steps you should be supportive and collaborative, not leading. This means that when exploring the value behind an activity, the patient should be coming up with the answers, not you. Similarly, when discussing other activities that could meet their values, the patient should be coming up with the activities. You shouldn't be giving them ideas. Use your questioning skill to guide them towards answers if they're struggling. For instance, in the running example, I could say, "You've told me that you ran for the health benefit. Can you think of any other things you could possibly do that would benefit your health?" If they were still struggling, you could ask something like, "Is there anything your friends or family do to stay fit or healthy?" You'll notice that I'm never saying to them, "How about swimming?" or "How about jogging?" as this is quite leading. One last thing to consider about this intervention is that in some cases the loss of an activity is so central to the person's identity, it may lead to issues which are too complex to be treated by BA. If their identity is so invested into doing something that they can no longer do, they may need support adjusting to this before they could consider replacing it with other activities. In these cases, the patient may need counselling for adjustment, which you would need to signpost out for. We've now covered the values-based behaviour activation intervention, but before we finish, let's summarise the key steps that we've discussed today. Step 1 is considering the activities that the patient is no longer doing, either due to their depression or another issue in their life. Step 2 is working out what values underlie these activities. Step 3 is considering what other activities can meet these values. And finally, step 4 is taking these activities and inputting them back into the core BA intervention. I hope this video has helped develop your knowledge of the behaviour activation intervention and will assist you in treating patients with depression in your clinical practice. If you're interested in other videos like this, then you should watch the rest of this video series, focusing on cognitive restructuring, exposure, worry management, and more. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.